This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is sponsored by MagnaGrip, America's choice for clean air. Eliminate 100% of airborne toxins from within the station with MagnaGrip. Learn more at magnagrip.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Aaron Zamzow. I'm a fire officer in Wisconsin, right for Fire Rescue 1. And I like to say I'm kind of like just the head of the misfits of the fire department. I have the greatest seat in the house because I get to hear about and tell some great stories. And today I got a good friend with me, now a good friend who has has a great story that we've talked about kind of behind the scenes. We're going to try to articulate and get out. But I firmly believe everybody, if you're listening to this right now, go get your crew or share this with somebody, because I think the lessons and the things that we're going to talk about are going to help save your life or someone else's. We're going to talk about a close call. We're going to talk about mental health a little bit. And here to do that is a good friend of the show and myself now is Firefighter Andrew Klein. Firefighter from Southern California, member of the local 2020. Brother, thanks for being here. How you doing, man?
Welcome really good.
Welcome to the show, by the way. First and foremost, welcome, man.
You're here.
You're here, right?
Yeah.
You have Wisconsin roots, so right away we bonded. Boom, like right away started talking about some things about Wisconsin and the fire service, and you get to work on a truck. Sometimes you're at heart though you're an engine guy. Which is weird because you're like a big truck guy, obviously with the mustache. You got, you're what, 6'3", 250. So like people mistake you for a truck guy, but take me through a little bit. Like, where's that come from? How about your career, your 28-year career? Give me a little bit of summary of like where you've been and how we got to where we are today.
So yeah, on that whole engine truck debacle, it's a body for the truck, heart for the engine. So
that's right.
Yeah, that's gonna be patent. So don't steal that idea. That's
T-shirt coming soon.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough at a young age that I knew what I wanted to do. My dad had a pharmacy in a small town close to where I live, and it was surrounded by local firefighter or volunteer firefighters. So they would always come in. They were patients. Always heard the pager going off, and nothing sparked interest of like, oh, maybe I should try that. It was just kind of like a natural thing of like, hey, where are they going? I knew what a helmet was. It was just a natural thing for me. And so growing up into that was great because I always had support, always had T-shirts, went to musters. But finally, at the age of 14, right before I turned 15, I got on as an explorer with my local department, which is now a county fire department in my first in where I live. So did that, had great experience, ran on as many calls as I could, saw a lot of good stuff, ran EMS very early on in my career, and just knew it wasn't just about firefighting. Back then in the late 90s, it was about bush fires, hazmat, EMS, structured fires, and repeat. That was before 9/11. And then, so fortunately, May of 2001, I got on as a firefighter with the same department and ran a lot of brush fires that summer, went on a bunch of structure fires, and then 9/11 happened. And then I think everyone's perspective on how dangerous our job is and overall the world changed, including myself. So then it became hazmat and, terrorism response and the unknowns. It seems like every handful of years, there's a new something to be concerned about. And like right now, we're in this conflagration period of all these major fires like Palisades and Eaton. And I was at Eaton fire for 7 days. And that was a whole nother experience. But early in my career, I wanted to get as much experience as I could. So all of it was pretty much based on a ninja company. And then I went over to a neighboring department where they had a hotshot crew. Love that. Anyone that's listening that wants to get involved in the fire service, paramedic school is great. Yes, it's a great life skill to have. But if you want to learn to be an honest grunt worker, being on the shot crew or hell attack or out there wearing the green or humping hills, that's where it's at.
That's where it's at.
Yeah. So I did that for 3 years. hung out with some of the best 20 people in crew buggies for 3 summers. Went on great fires, had a lot of great experience, and then went to the floor because that department, the crew is the hiring pool. So spent 7 years on the floor there. Went down to Southern California, greater LA area, had an amazing time with a great bunch of people down there. Experienced the civil unrest during 2020.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so we were in the middle of all that. Um, and I think that was probably the beginning of my change on prioritizing. Because when I went down to Southern California is when I just got married, had my first daughter, then my second daughter, and by the time I was thinking about leaving, my third daughter was on the way. Um, so I started trying to think about doing the right thing. Uh, Experience is great, but without a good family, it's just experience.
Yeah.
So I had to really think about it from a father perspective and a husband, and think what's going to be the best move here. So I had to have my probably my hardest professional heartbreak and leave that department, which I still think very highly about. Amazing people, amazing experiences down there, very progressive. I had to leave for my family, and it was tough but necessary for me. And yeah, so I left to be a captain at a small town about an hour away. So I went from firefighter on the truck when I left to a captain on an engine, 3-man staffing, and had to learn to be a professional parent for the first time. But I feel like my experience before and being a squad boss on the crew, I was learning the ropes as best I could, and then opportunity opened up for my hometown, which is 6 minutes from where I live. I jumped on it, and I'm home. I'm
Yeah.
anchored in. The roots are settling, and but unfortunately, coming home is where I uh, almost got wiped out. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm here to talk about and kind of express the importance of the topics we're going to discuss.
Yeah, and I think it's important just for everybody to know, like you got 28 years of experience on with your arms in a lot of different facets of the fire service, and we talked about this, and I want to mention this 99-1 rule, right? Like throughout those different departments, you train, 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 and I think in the fire service, you may go your entire career never pull anybody out of a fire. You may go your entire career and only have that one or two fires, but 99% of our training comes out in that one call, that one instance, and which is why it's so imperative to really make sure that you're solid in the foundations and the fundamentals. And I think a message that right away I got from you was, I just want you want to transfer to people, like, take training serious, because you, even if you haven't used it, it only takes that one instance, that one call, and you're going to wish you did. And in this case, it worked out really well for you and your crews. And so let's talk a little bit about it. So,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about a close call and a fire that was started in a commercial structure, I believe, and take us through that first of all. But you know, for those fire buffs and for our listeners, I think this is where we try to put yourself in your shoes in this case, and right, and try to learn from just what happened, and that's really what your passion is, to pass this forward. So, by the way, thank you for sharing the story, and we'll dig into it a little bit, but I'll shut up and let you get to the meat and potatoes of it, right, and what set up and what happened.
Yeah, and nothing is to point blame at any one person, any one agency. This is more of stressing the importance of wearing all your PPE, including being masked up when you think you don't need to, uh, building construction, knowing your first in, and just knowing what certain building materials can do when they're exposed to heat. So this is not a blame game by any stretch. This is just a hard look at what you can do tonight, tomorrow, when you listen to this, to make it better for you, to where you can survive and go home to your family. It's like we always preach about. So that's where it stems from. All out of love for the brothers and sisters in our job. Um, so yeah, the day it happened, it was May 13th, and it was not a normal work day for me. It was May the 13th and a full moon. Uh,
Wasn't
So
Friday though. Wasn't a Friday.
it was not. It was not Friday.
Okay.
And I'm not superstitious, but this night was an exception, I think. Um, so the whole day, started routine like we always hear of all these close calls, like, oh, it's normal day EMS calls. It was no different today. I worked with the regular engineer that day, and then myself and the captain were both overtimers, but we all worked well together. We knew each other's personalities. Had a great day. So we had a union meeting that evening that went 5 hours uninterrupted.
Oof.
So uh, it was great because we've had some exciting news lately where as a local we're able to celebrate a new contract to help all of our members out. Um, but then we thought, okay, it's been 5 hours without a call. We usually all know what that means. So we're all kind of thinking like, okay, what's in it
Here
for
it
tonight?
comes.
What's
Yep.
what's on the menu?
Full moon, especially.
And it was
Right.
clear night. It was just just cool enough, but comfortable enough. I mean, you could see for miles. It was a beautiful night. Uh, but we had our first call after 10, right after the union meeting, and it was sort of smoke check in an area right by where the fire was. And it's an area that's prone to debris fires, transients. It's a very heavily trafficked area as far as the unhoused,
Hmm.
is if you want to label that type.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember in my past, before I was at my current department, we ran fires in that area in general, just because of the same thing with the homelessness and debris piles. So this area has uh, had an issue for quite a while. And so fast forwarding to this night, we didn't see a single column of smoke, no signs of fire, nothing. We circled the block, did our thorough check of the area, which was unusual because usually for a fire in that area, there's something.
Yeah. It
Whether
is
it's like,
just it came out as an odor investigation. This first call came out as an odor investigation, kind of, right?
yeah,
Like,
odor
yeah.
investigation from a neighboring apartment building just to the east of the building we're going to be discussing, and not a single shred of evidence of smoke or fire or issues. Nothing. Not even a single person walking the street. Okay, so we went home after doing a thorough check, and then 2 blocks from that, we popped a medical, and we thought again, okay, we're going to go by this building one more time, just to put it to bed in our minds. As we roll by, there's a railroad track. There's a main thoroughfare and a railroad track that's perpendicular, runs the north side of the building. And I remember the driver stopped there, and I looked at the building. So the building I'm looking at is anywhere between 38,000 to 43,000 square feet, L-shaped, Type 2 construction, steel I-beams, corrugated metal exterior, and most of it's on a raised foundation. It's got loading docks, big parking lot. It's on a corner, but
Manufacturing or storage or both?
so it was built in the 40s, and it was used the last for produce as a cooling as a cold storage uh,
Okay. So refrigerant.
facility.
Yeah,
Right,
refrigerated facility. Okay.
right. So we stopped at the building, and when you look at opposite the building for where we went when we came back later, the building looks really small. Uh, so we stayed there for a good minute. We looked everywhere. I looked over the top of the building, no smoke showing. There were trucks and the regular commercial vehicles parked in the parking lot to my right. And I looked, I'm like, we're good. Let's go home. Nothing. And then a few minutes later, as we just lay in the bed, lights came on, commercial structure fire, same location. I'm like, what did we miss?
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, this is something. PD's on scene, advising they have smoke showing from the building. Like, well, which building? Was it that one? Was it across the street? Like, what? We looked everywhere. So we get halfway down the street and we see it. And it's, white smoke, and luckily it's a clear night, no wind, where we saw it going up. And it honestly looked like maybe a debris fire from a distance, but a good sized one. Um, just white smoke, um, not too crazy, almost like the very incipient stage of a debris fire.
And So were you even thinking structure? You're saying kind of like could be outside fire at this point, just based on what the smoke was
Well,
showing you.
well, based on the fires I've had in that area before, I thought it was probably debris fire and it could have extended inside, or I thought I knew just on history where I thought the fire was without
Okay.
seeing it, just based on previous experience. But then we got there and PD was on scene, so you could see the red and blue lights. So like, well, okay, there's no hydrant blocks, and we found the address. So uh,
PD wasn't in front of the
yeah,
hydrant either.
yeah,
Okay.
thank you,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, we were toying with the idea initially before we committed inside the property, and from the street we entered to the where we parked was about 250 feet, so it's a little bit of a stretch off the street from the hydrant. So there's a plug on the fire building side of the street and opposite, and just a takeaway tactically for me is like from here on out, like at least wrap it dry and then wrap the plug and go. Um, but we went in because we saw our second due engine behind us and we were going to have them commit to the water supply as
Hmm.
we set up for size up and fire attack. Um, so we parked and we were in line with the loading dock. There's 5 roll up doors, and then the rest of the building, the majority of the building is to the west towards the street where we talked about the railroad tracks and the main thoroughfare.
Yeah.
So we had smoke showing from the, I'm going to call it the number 1 door from left to right. So the number 1 door had smoke coming out of the top of it, not truly from the door, but the majority of the smoke seemed to be coming from the north side of the ridge line on the roof. So we couldn't get a 360
Because
because of the
it's
sheer.
a big facility. So and I imagine there's like trees or it's or maybe even fenced off in one and a couple sides from
Yeah,
a 360.
fenced off, narrow access, railroad tracks on one side, so you can't
Okay. Yeah.
obviously drive out the rig. But big building, even on foot, it would take 10, 15 minutes of a good 360 on foot. So it was a challenge initially. Um, but I looked at it and I thought, okay, automatically I'm going 2.5. So pulled our 200 foot of 2.5 with a smoothbore tip, 1-inch tip. Came in there, it was a nice stretch, felt really good. Um, And right before I walked up on the building, I looked once more to scan it to see access points, where the smoke was, where we're going. Um, so I committed to the number 1 door, the western roll up door, and thought, okay, well, we'll at least start here. I got plenty of hose line. We're okay. So truck guys are coming over. They parked opposite of us, and we started talking about uh, splitting up. Us doing fire attack, obviously, and then they're going to do forcible entry for us. And all the rigs are 3-man. So
Okay.
anyone that runs 2-man companies, absolutely crazy. 3-man, no different. But really, to do anything from EMS firewise, like 4 or more, is the way to go. But we make it work, and that night we made it work. We're very efficient with our crew. We have a lot of good experience with all the people on scene. So we came up with the game plan. Truck started opening up the roll up door. And so as that was going on, I saw this, I'm calling it like a little enclosed breezeway. So it was open. There was a small wooden ramp, and it's just to the left and underneath where the first roll up door was. So it's totally open, no smoke condition, nothing indicating that I needed to mask up or that there was any need for a line to be flown before I go. Line was charged. I brought it with me, and the first task I had was there was a door that was half hanging off its hinges, and it was 70% open. And I just ripped that thing off, threw it outside. That was a metal out swinging door. So luckily, I was able to rip that off. And I usually carry irons with me, but I had the 2.5, so priorities change a little bit.
Yep.
Um, so then my next obstacle was a fork in the road. Uh, from where I was at the beginning, going inside this enclosed doorway, it's about 20 feet from entrance to the endpoint. At this endpoint, there was a door, which I now discovered was to my left, outward swinging. Straight ahead was an office area, wooden, uh, solid core inward swinging door locked. I kept that locked. And then to my right, there was a man door that was fully open, leading to the loading dock area, which was now being forced by the truck with the rotary saw.
And you're right now, conditions are what?
Clear,
Not clear. No heat.
clear.
The smoke that you were seeing kind of from the front, from the loading dock door, you're not seeing it where
No,
you're
not
at?
seeing inside. Everything was, because as anyone knows, in any commercial buildings or vaulted ceilings,
Yeah.
it's all up top. And, being past 11 o'clock at night and, everything's shaded because it's covered. I mean, it was clear, nothing that indicated that the fire was right there or
Yeah.
that we need to be masked up, ready to go right now.
Yeah. And
So
overhead, no heat. It's just, yeah. What? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
but the weird part is, so as I scanned that, and then the truck's opening up the first roll up door, I looked. There's nothing. There's no materials involved. There's no cars. There's no forklifts involved. I'm just puzzled. I'm like, what is in this place? And so I look underneath, and there's a little space underneath the closed door that was straight ahead of me, the inward wooden door that was locked. And I'm glad I kept that one locked, because we talk about door control and being smart about our ventilation and limiting access.
Airflow. Yep.
That's a real thing. So thankfully I kept that closed. I had pressurized heat and smoke coming from this ripped off fascia board underneath what I thought was a raised foundation. So in this office area, it's about 100 by 100-foot spot where that was the only true raised foundation. Everything else around it was solid concrete raised. And then this void space underneath was the subfloor underneath the office. And that's where all the heat was coming from. It was in the bottom right-hand corner of this step. It's probably about 8 inches tall by about 3.5 feet wide. So the bottom right-hand corner of where my feet were is where the heat was. And so I had the line with me, and I shot about 15 seconds of smooth bore water in there, and had a little bit of return, and then shut the line down. And I thought, okay, I need to talk to my captain and tell him this thing's probably below us, because I don't see anything up top, warehouse, nothing. I'm like, it's got to be underneath us. So I went outside, and so that's about a 20-foot walk plus going out to the loading dock where he was. I tell him, hey, Cap, I think it's underneath us. It's in the subfloor. Had heat right here in this corner, and I would like to open up the floor and work with the truck to coordinate getting this thing opened up. He says, okay. So he told command that, and so we're also being mindful. Like, if it's below us, we're not going to go straight in. We're going to think about just seeing what we got, and if we have to go defensive, we'll pull back. So we had that in the back of our minds where we could go
Getting
defensive.
a better angle at it, right? Like not standing right over the top of it. Get a better angle.
Exactly.
Open
So
this
we were
up,
not.
see what we got. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing was done carelessly. It was all thought out and communicated well. I think for as much as what was going on scene within that 10-minute period, there's a lot of good communication that was going on, both face to face and over the radio. So I told my truck buddy I got hired with. I said, hey, I think we probably need to get a chainsaw to get a nice clean cut of this floor. He said, okay. So he was about 6 feet off to my right in the loading dock area where that door was open. And I'm right at the step leading to this closed door at that fork I was telling you about. And I brought my axe out, pick-headed axe in a scabbard, and I started chopping away. And the first 2 hits, it was solid wood, and it was going through. Hit the third time, complete lights out, black. And like right now, I'm getting goosebumps. It was complete darkness. There was this thunderous boom, followed by a roar, almost like a very similar deafening sound to what the guys experienced at Boyd Street in LA. Just the sound. Granted, that was a whole different building, but just the sound itself, that brought me back to what the guys heard at Boyd Street. It was just a deafening rumble. And I remember thinking, like, did I screw up?
What did you just hit, right? What
did
I
hit? Did I hit a propane tank? Was it a CO2 tank? Like ammonia? What? So I put my axe back in my scabbard. So as I'm doing this, my body is already moving away. I'm not telling myself like, oh crap, I need to go. My body's already saying like, this is not good. So my body's going left, and then here comes the pressure from the floor area I was telling you about. So the pressure was that to where it was putting pressure on my face piece, just like someone was putting their hands and just putting forward pressure on my face piece, and now it's getting orange. I'm thinking, what in the hell is going on? And I
Yeah. Where's
remember,
your captain behind you at this point? Hand line behind you as well?
so he was behind me with the tick
Yeah.
before everything went lights out, and he confirmed. He's like, "Yeah, Andrew, it's right there in the corner." He confirmed there was heat coming from there. Same thing. He scanned. That was the only heat that he was showing on the tick was in that subfloor area. Uh, and then, so when that happened, he got blown out of the doorway. His helmet got knocked off. His face piece got turned away. And so he was blown clear of the opening I was in. And he had to run away from the building, get out of the smoke just to get eyes on where I was.
Yeah.
So while he was being blown out, I'm still in there, not knowing he got blown out. Because at that point, I'm thinking, just in my mind, I'm walking as it's orange, just complete orange. If you had a piece of orange craft paper from your kids, you just put it over. That's what I saw, just like a bright orange, and it was brighter on my right side. And I hear that roar getting louder on my right hand side. And as I'm walking away, I'm standing up at this point because nothing told me I need to get down. I knew it was hot, but my body was just like trying to make sense in my mind too, what was going on. So I'm just repeating, I'm yelling, what the hell? What the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? And the walk felt like I was on all fours crawling the length of a football field. That's what it felt like looking back on it now. It was it was only 20 feet, but it was the longest 20 feet I've ever walked in
Yeah.
my life.
Well, plus the heat's below you, which is not our reaction that we're used
No,
to, right? Like your
no,
28 years of experience is telling you that that hot air, right? Smoke is all above us typically,
yeah,
right?
right.
Unless obviously we know that if it's a basement or something, but like in this environment, you're getting hit from heat coming from below you and at you at this point.
Yeah, so
And
now it's on my back. So now I'm thinking, okay, and I feel pressure on the back of my helmet. It's kind of tilting forward. I'm like, what? I'm puzzled. Like, what is going on? What the hell is happening? And there were some other words used, but I was just like
mhm. Yeah,
yelling
what
that.
the F? Yeah,
And
right.
I couldn't even hear myself yell. I knew what I was saying, but I couldn't hear it. That's how loud it was. It was almost like I was trying to yell louder to surpass the volume of the incident that was occurring around me. Um, so as I'm crawling out or walking out rather, there were guys on the outside that were now coming back after the smoke kind of went from horizontal to lifting. All they saw was a charge 2.5 going in and fire coming out of the top of the door opening where I was, and they thought I was already dead.
Mhm.
So while they thought I was dead, I'm walking out thinking three things. I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? It sounds like Boyd Street, like I talked about before, just with
Yeah.
that roar. And also, if I'll keep moving, I'm not going to get out of here. So I got to keep going. So I kept going, and then boom, I hit the wall that leads to the threshold of the exit leading to the loading dock. So I hit that, and then once I did, I just see um, just like drippings of fire and debris, and there's concrete on fire, and there's debris on fire all around me. It just looked like dozens of campfires, just the coals got scattered. I'm like, why is the ground on fire? And like, what's happening? And then as I'm wiping off my face piece, I look, and there's nothing but fire coming out of the opening I was just at. Now I'm like, what? Like now where's my captain?
Yeah.
So
You're
now
at the
I'm
spot where you thought he was, right? Like you had
yeah,
gone back to where you thought he was. Yeah.
right. So now I'm thinking, did I pass him? Like, where is he? I can't see anyone. I could hear guys yelling. The air horns are going off. Guys are being very proactive on hitting the air horns right away. that was the only indication that I knew that my body was reacting appropriately, and that the air horns confirmed it. So to our engineer that night, he killed it, because that air horn, everyone heard it, so everyone had a better understanding that this was a bad thing occurring. So engineers, don't be afraid to hit that button. You
Yeah.
know, like
And this
it's
is all happening within an instant too. So
this,
like
yeah,
someone, if they're asking, why are you not calling Mayday? At this point, you're trying to figure out what your Mayday would even say, probably. Because you're like, I don't know, right? You're still trying to get back to where you know the entrance where you came in from.
right,
You thought your captain was there. All this
yeah,
is probably occurring within 2 or 3 seconds of each other at this point, right? Like, and then you're
yeah.
hearing the air horns going off. So I'm trying to put myself in your shoes and think, yeah, I mean, you're telling the story like it's right. But we got to remember this is in an instant.
Yeah,
You're just responding on reaction right now. And
yeah.
so you got to that doorway, everything is kind of breaking apart on you. You're hearing
Hmm.
the horns going on. And I mean, what was at that point? What's your strategy? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking I gotta I gotta flow water where my captain was. So my truck buddy that got out, he got blown out of uh, the roll up door opening that they made. The truck finished that cut at that first door. So luckily all that pressure kind of diverted. And I think looking back at it now, if that door was not open, all that pressure probably would have catapulted me in that opening I was in, and it would have been devastating pressure going in that doorway I was in.
It was almost like
So,
a relief point at that
right,
point. The door was okay.
exactly. So I think without that, it would have been a much different outcome for me. Um, but it was bad enough that there was so much energy in this building. Every opening that was available, it was absolutely just roaring pressure and just violent fire. I've never seen anything like it, never experienced anything like it before. So now I'm thinking, okay, where's my captain at? So I got worried, obviously, and pissed off. I'm thinking, well, shit, I better start flowing some water. And then my truck buddy is saying the same thing. He's like, flow water. And we have the only charge hose line on the ground. Uh, the second line wasn't pulled because that plugman was now pulling the line as the fire erupted. So I had the only charged fed hose line at this point. And then, so from the time we arrived on scene to now was exactly 10 minutes. So in that 10-minute period of going from light smoke condition to volcanic eruption, I mean, it was game on very
Yeah, very
quickly,
quick.
very quick.
But you're
But
thinking flow water because you're trying to figure out what happened to your captain. At this point,
yeah,
you're thinking, I need to get water on this. I need to get him out of here. He's got to be
yeah,
somewhere close, right?
he's got to be in that doorway. So just I was a firefighter sniper. I got the 2.5. I yanked that guy up quick, started flowing water, and then I shot it straight down. There's like a little narrow vantage point that I had to shoot water, and I just started blasting that area, thinking, well, if he's in there, I'm at least going to buy him some time, right?
Yeah.
Like if I just came through there, like I could help him out. And I told my truck buddy, I'm like, find him, like find Captain One. 10 seconds later, he came over. He's like, hey, he's right here. I'm like, yeah, right. Where is he? I want to see him. He's like, he's right here. And I looked at him, and he was just uh, completely just in a daze and like, what just happened? And he had to tell him, hey, Klein's over here. Klein's here too. So he was the one that linked the both of us to accounting for our presence.
Yeah.
So as I'm flowing water, I knelt down on it. And for the first time in my career, and this is not a religious interview or anything like that, but for the first time in my career, I actually knelt down the hose line. I took a deep breath and I said, thank you, God. Thank you so much. And then from there, I didn't care about the building. I didn't care about anything else about the rest of the fire. I just cared about the guys, making sure that, you know, everyone was okay and accounted for. Uh, I've never done that in my life, especially on the fire ground. And it was to that point where I was in just regular work mode. It just kind of went numb, went back to business, started flowing water, doing what firefighters do. And then about 15 seconds later, I was shaking so bad from the nerves and
Adrenaline.
from
Yeah.
adrenaline and just the emotional toll of like, wow, what just happened? I had to shut down the line and I told someone, hey, I need a break.
Yeah.
If anyone knows me, that is not my character to give up a hose line. That's a engine company 101. Do not. But this was a must do in this case. I was I was just emotionally done. I was already checked out. I didn't care about this building anymore because it almost took me out, and I felt it. I felt in my bones that this was so close. I didn't care about engaging on this fire again. So I shut down the line, gave it up, and I said, "Well, this thing's gonna be roaring for a while. There's plenty of water. I could flow water later,
Yeah,
you know."
you're gonna get it.
Uh,
This is now we're going defensive, right? You
yeah,
know you're gonna be here a while, so
yeah.
hunker down.
Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip, the easiest, most reliable exhaust removal system that features a true 100% seal to eliminate diesel exhaust fumes in a snap. Visit magnagrip.com to download MagnaGrip's free grant guide with expert tips to solidify a grant for essential safety equipment, such as MagnaGrip's exhaust removal systems. That's magnagrip.com to download the free guide.
Of course, our listeners are probably going, well, what was it? What erupted, or what happened to cause that? Do you guys have more indication on really what happened when you
So,
encountered that?
so, given the fact that this was a very large building, and more likely there was a smoldering fire somewhere in the interior of the building, unchecked, in a very well insulated building for a long time. Because remember what I said earlier, we went by this building twice within the half hour or hour of the fire, and we had zero showing. So even rolling by this building with nothing, with three experienced members on board, this thing was so airtight. It was just brewing, waiting for an opening, and we gave it an opening. So that's what it needed. So after the fire was knocked down, we're talking with the building owner. IC is doing all that. He's like, what's in this building? Like, what do you have? He's like, there's nothing in there.
Hmm.
He's like, I don't believe you. He's like, there's no way this much activity, and then him thinking that there were guys dead. Multiple guys thought that multiple people were dead. And that was just one event that we had of the rapid flashover on my side. Then we had the smoke fire explosion on the other side about 60 feet away. So we had two uh, major uh, dynamic fire events occur at the same time, two different locations. But the end result was that we just gave it the air that it needed, and it just took off. So the building itself used to be a cooling facility. And if anyone knows anything about cooling facilities, yeah, they're well insulated, but this particular one had spray foam insulation. And so the spray foam
Oh,
insulation is a petroleum-based product. It's a
yep.
solid. So when it burns, it can ignite over 200 degrees. I believe, don't quote me, I'm not a science geek, but about 600, 650 degrees plus, it actually turns into flame. And from when it starts burning, it turns into a liquid. So it's almost
Yeah.
like a kerosene fire. So now that this whole thing is roaring, I mean, that was the rapid progression of the fire, is that now it's a class B fire, a very big one,
Yep.
because now all the from floor to ceiling, vertical stack, you have this spray foam
You
class
added
B fire.
it got oxygen, it heated up to a
It
point where that
ran.
now it just becomes it's like, yeah, like you're saying, now you're throwing kerosene is just being thrown on this thing repeatedly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
So, and then what's weird is, we didn't know that till the next day after. We're like, how? Like, that was a lot of energy for insulation. Well, it was real, because the aftermath pics, all the insulation is down. It looks like just burnt rolls of carpet, just mounds of this stuff collapsed, and it pooled everywhere, because when it liquefies, then it turns into solid. Obviously, when it cools down, but
Yeah.
it was throughout this entire building. We're like, that was burning. That's what caused all this major fire activity. It was bizarre. I've never had an empty building go up like that.
And it wasn't
Um,
sprinklered.
it was unsprinklered. Um, yeah, built in the 40s, and There was nothing in there. The only contents in there that we saw were behind that closed door that I talked about before. That was the only real contents with um, office furniture and random stuff. And that door was was basically burned off.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back at it now, so yeah, I went back to that same spot 2 days later, and we're just trying to reconstruct and
Piecemeal.
digest everything, right? Well, one of my guys was being funny. He doesn't work on my shift normally, so he was kind of being being a goofball, trying to make light of.
C shifter. You're being a C shifter, right? Yeah.
He was another one of those. He was not a C shifter. He was with the letter after A.
Okay. Oh yeah. We know about those. I could say it.
Yeah,
We can know those B shifters. Yeah.
yeah. I'm an A shifter myself, but
Me too, brother. Me too.
okay.
Yep.
Hey,
Yep.
hey, cheers.
Cheers.
Um, so he poked through that little fork of the road where I was at, and he kind of went like, "Boo!" Scared me. And at first, I froze, and I thought, "Not right now. Not appropriate."
Yeah. Right.
Well, then the emotions start hitting, where I had to put my arm on the metal frame leading to the loading dock, where there's all this debris and charred remains, and I broke down.
Yeah.
I'm in uniform, I'm on duty, and I started bawling. So now he feels like he screwed up, and I said, "Hey, dude, like it's okay. I don't blame you. Like this was a heavy call."
Yeah.
And I think he understood that afterwards. Um, that was the beginning of my personal reflection on how significant this was to me, almost not making it out. And then, so right after I wipe off my face, we pop a structure actually a few blocks away. So I'm like, like just a little bit of a relief that I'm not zoning into this close call. But you got to keep working at the time, and at the time, I felt like work was the best thing for me. Uh, but I remember that, even though the guys were trying to make light of it, this was so bad to where I knew this was not just our typical close call. This was a very violent eruption of building products, building materials that almost took us out. And I wanted to learn as much as I could from this, not just tactically. And yeah, there are things we can work on and things we should have done and this and that. But I'll tell you what, this is the first time where I'm not looking to blame anyone. I'm looking to learn and grow myself and teach others the importance of, number one, wearing your stuff. Uh, when I first went in there, I had everything on except my face piece. I didn't have my gloves on. I don't train to mask up with gloves on. I've seen videos on it. There are guys from Northern Cal that have taught classes that I've attended that preach that. I thought, yeah, maybe I'll do that one day. East Coast, same thing. Guys are good with gloves on. Yeah, maybe I'll get to it. Uh, After this, I'm getting into it. 1,000,000%. That is a honest truth. Um, and also putting the face piece on, even when I think I don't need it. If it's food on the stove, I don't care. I'm in the habit where air tanks, we got plenty of them to swap out because you never know when something's going to pop up. And thankfully, I have my face piece on because I guarantee you, I would not be talking. I'd either be really messed up, laid up somewhere in a burn center, or worse.
Yeah.
Because from the pressure, the sudden heat release, and the smoke, there's no way I would be able to hold my breath in time or shield myself or gloves. I just, my gut is telling me that is an almost certainty that my gear saved my life.
Yeah.
Um,
And getting in the habit of, you said too, like you had your gear, your PPE all on properly. Because if it wasn't, that heat would have found that small little crease, right?
yeah,
Like because of the pressure that it had on you. So
yeah.
I mean, definitely PPE. I mean, what else kind of sticks out in your mind? I mean, as people are listening now, hopefully putting themselves in your shoes. Like you're right. Like if you're thinking, well, maybe I should have my PPE on, put it on and put it on correctly. I mean, what else do you look back and go, damn, I wish I would have done this, or I'm gonna do this more now?
Well, I wish we had more people on the rig, um, but also if we had more guys in that hallway, more guys would have experienced the oh crap moment that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily, less is more sometimes. But luckily, our rig team just got in place and was able to do accountability within a minute and a half of everyone. Considering the fact that everyone was spread out and had to run away, and we had to find out who's who, and uh, we just recently got glow in the dark helmet IDs, so you're able to see little beams of green square on people's helmets. Like, okay, there's two bodies there. Okay, they're good, they're fine. Uh, so accountability is big. Uh, People being heads up, but listening to your gut is probably a big one too. Like my body was already shifting away naturally from this
Yeah.
oh crap moment, thankfully, because my body's been through a lot of gnarly experiences, but this one it knew like get away, so it started shifting away. So experience and listening to gut definitely helped that along. Um, but Probably another takeaway too is just how amazing our guys are in the fire service. And when I say guys, I'm not talking just males, whatever. Like it
People.
doesn't matter if
Yeah.
people. Thank you. If you're tall, short, male, female, uh, whatever. We have amazing people in this line of work, and it was a true testament that night that we really did give a damn about each other, because everyone paused and looked at everyone more intently, like, "I'm glad you're alive. I'm glad you're alive. I'm glad you're okay." Um, we had two guys with minor injuries. One guy got burns to his left hand, second-degree burns, because he was on the other side of where I was, and he had his hands exposed, but luckily he was able to tuck him in. One guy got I believe, a torn ACL from stepping on the submerged hose line because we flew so much water.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but really, just emphasizing that the fire service love that we have for each other is real, and that you may not get along with everyone, but when rubber meets the road and we're in this type of scenario, we all care about each other. So that was just a beautiful thing, just being able to like right off the building and say, I don't care about this building. I care about making sure I see him really quick. Um, it was just a beautiful, crazy moment to really sit back and really appreciate the people I work with.
Yeah.
Just
A little gratitude moment there, right? I
oh,
think even that breath
yeah.
that you talked about, like it was a holy shit, thank God, and the gratitude, and you had mentioned too, like building construction, knowing your territory, and I think, you
Yeah.
know, um, the other part too, and we talked about this kind of behind the scenes. I mean, we just don't know what we're going into a lot of times. I mean, there's lithium ion batteries, there's chemicals in some of these places. There's now like that foam is really like gasoline at a certain
Hmm.
temperature. So
Right.
hopefully someone's going out and going, you know what, we got a cold storage facility in our territory. Let's go take a look at that thing, right? See if it's sprinklered. And
Hmm.
then I think the other important piece is just the after effect mentally, right? Like, I mean, you and Janelle go way back, and you've been a photographer for the fire service too, and I think you're destined to be a great PIO someday. Just watching how and listening to how you handle yourself. But I think you and I also bonded over the fact, like, there's the other aspect of this that we all got to learn from it, but you got to deal with. I almost lost my life, right? Like, how are you doing on that side?
It gets better with time, only because I allow myself to acknowledge what what almost did happen, but not dwell on it in a negative sense. Dwell on the sense of growing and acknowledging and accepting. Um, Oddly enough, a couple weeks before I was nominated for our peer support team, I just went through the training locally, just to start the process of being a peer support member. Um, yeah, so even though I knew the resources that were available to me, I needed to take a quick minute. And the first phone call was to my wife, um, and she's a teacher locally. And I got off duty the next morning, And we were up all night, and I was just numb, careful what I was going to tell her, because like some families, you either can be honest to a certain point, or you just don't say anything. Well, with our family, it's a little mix of we can be detailed, but within reason. And I went to her school and I said, "Hey, I just need to see you for a minute." And I told her like, "Babe, that was close." And I I told her, I'm like, "Don't worry, um, it was close for not just me, but a few of us." And you could see her just kind of puzzled, like, "What happened?" I'm like, "This is not the time. I don't want to ruin your day. I
Yeah.
wanted to just I wanted to make my day better by seeing you and let you know that I'm okay." And we'll talk about it later. Huh.
Yeah. Go on, man. Yeah, this is good. This is what I
this
think people need to hear.
this yeah, this is part of the like a sore muscle,
Yeah.
you just gotta roll it out, gotta let it feel itself out. Um, I don't want to see my kids. That wasn't appropriate. I got in the truck and I called a friend of mine, Charles Peterson. He's a retired fire captain, and he's also at my church. I called him because I knew he can identify with vernacular, the chain of events, and also from a religious standpoint. Uh, I just need to start going over that bridge with him. And his first reaction was like, "Holy crap, it sounded real." Like, yeah, Charles, yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had a good discussion there. I called another friend of mine, called my pastor. Um, so I started nickel and diming just the connections I felt like I had to have, because the past couple of years, and again, I'm not going down the religious path at all, but I'm just saying one of my outlets was getting in touch with uh, the people I connect with in my church.
Yeah.
Second to that was checking on the guys that were there, like my captain. We talked every day back and forth. Either it was a simple phone call or a text. "Hey, how you doing today? Hey, how you doing?" Just back and forth. Like, "I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're alive," and just giving that positive reinforcement to each other that he's a very senior man in our department. So going from a guy that has almost seen it all in his tenure of being on the job, and then having my experience, it's like that was we thought we were both dead. I thought he was dead. He thought I was dead. Uh, and then just to like look each other in the eye and see name on the phone and be like, "I'm glad to see your name on the phone." And then we'll give each other crap, about later, or joke about random stuff to kind of break the tension. But it just the mental health aspect of our job is so real and so understated, and it's still eating away our guys. Even the ones that go through therapy, it's a real thing. It's an ongoing thing. It's something where uh, just like we talk about the importance of building construction and violence in emergency situations and stuff like that. Our job is dangerous at so many levels, and this one with the mental health portion, if you're having trouble, there are people out there that really do give a damn about you.
Hmm.
That anyone that has a heart, and there's millions of people that have heart, they're willing to help you. But the first step is to acknowledge that you're okay receiving it. You can't put up that traditional front of like, "Oh, don't worry about it, kid," sweep it under the rug, because that's what's damaging our people.
Yeah.
And it damaged me for a long time up until I opened up that door of healing. And it's been a transformation in the way I look at the job, the way I look at peer support as a program, as a push to heal others, uh, and also how I treat my patients and how I treat the public too. You know, like I had my worst day almost a month ago, and my guys are there for me, my family, people that barely know me, people that know me for years. They came from all over, and I feel that. I legitimately feel like I could be okay, and I can show emotion, and I can share my experience because they're not checking the box. They're really concerned about my well-being and that I get healed enough to where I can keep surging forward like I want to keep doing because we're helpers at heart. And if we're not helping, we're hurting. And that's the worst place to be is to have a helper that's hurting. But if you're hurting, you got to heal. And you got to heal before you go out there and help again. So you can be healthy and productive and contribute to the cause, which is helping other people in their time of need, right? Um, so short story long, um, the mental health thing I've taken very seriously. I've had my ups and downs since then. You know, it's brought up other calls in the past, and just in the past year, I was telling my wife the other day, in less than a year, we were at the Park Fire, so third largest fire in the state of California, hot as hell up there. Uh, and my captain on that fire was the same captain I had on May 13th.
Yeah, this
So that's actually where we got to meet each other and have a lot of good dialogue for those 2 weeks. Then we had a number of pediatric trauma calls that were very devastating, and it was our same crew on these incidents, and that's where I really acknowledge the severity of my reaction to trauma on kids. I think we all identify with that. They're very horrible, and they sting a lot more than others. So I did some peer support outreach on that with our local people, including 1805 is the program that helps us in our county, and they did an amazing job having a clinician available to me that I had a good connection with. And that's the thing too, is when you call someone, just like any other doctor you go to for a bum knee or whatever, you have every right as a patient to feel like you're being heard and that you're being treated fairly. So not every therapist is cut for every single person. Um, Luckily for me, I had made a really good personal um, or professional connection with this gentleman, and he was a retired cop, which automatically we're identifying like, oh, hey, you this and you that, you park in front of hydrants.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah,
but so
you have to have that healthy banter to start, right?
you gotta, yeah, and that's what really broke the tension. But together, I felt like the calls that I was calling him in regards to, even though he wasn't on our side of the fence as far as our profession, he had other experiences as a cop that were very similar to mine, where we were able to gel and come up with a process to work through those emotions I had. So I thought that was great. That it doesn't have to be, a firefighter or whatever. Like it has to be a person that can connect to you and make you feel uh, unjudged and heard, and that it's okay to have these feelings, number one. But here's how we're going to help you move through it. So I thought that was amazing, and that was provided through our local 1805 people, which are amazing people. And yeah, so after that, then we had the Eaton fire, and that was a whole different experience. I was only there for 7 days, but going from an area where we were initially going to go to Palisades, and they got diverted to Eaton, and we had, I mean, we didn't see our task force forever because it's like there's too much work.
Yeah.
And it was so devastating. It's like just find people, get them out, and do work,
Do
right?
what you can, right? Like at that
So
point.
yeah, so not getting off on a soapbox, but mentally, in less than a year, there's been a lot of professional things happening to where whether it's just major conflagrations or just the pediatric trauma calls we've had. Um, it's obviously not going to be the last time it's happening, but it's about acknowledging the fact that it will happen, and that I have to have a plan in place to deal with it. Just like how when you go to a reported structure fire, what do you do first thing? You put your boots in, pull up your pants.
Your
you
action
protect,
plan, right?
Your action plan. You put your stuff on. By putting my stuff on, I'm putting a plan in place, like a checkbox of if I hit these trigger points of feeling a certain way, I know I'm going to call this list of people and they're going to answer. And that's been a true fact the past few times I've had to do that. So having a plan and sticking to it is vital.
Yeah.
And not just telling your wife like, oh yeah, I called them, no big deal. But when you tell your wife, hey, I called this person and they were amazing, and I feel like we're on the right path to healing and to making myself feel okay again. That's where it's at. Not just saying, yeah, whatever, I'm okay. Because if you're saying that, you're kidding yourself,
Yeah.
and it's not going to help. It's going to hinder you. You know.
Well, and I think too, and I've had my fair share. We've done some episodes with Dr. Rachel Zemlock where I've been first in on an active shooter and pulled a guy out of a fire who passed away. And I think too, the biggest thing you hit on it was you have to look in the mirror and be vulnerable to
Yeah.
yourself and to those around you, because and you're the most robust looking firefighter with the stash, the 6'3", 260 pounds. But to hear you say, look, man, this shit affects me, it affects you too. You got to just dig and figure out how it's affecting you and how it's coming out. I applaud you for that vulnerability, because I think that vulnerability gave you gratitude, right? Like if you're not opening the door to looking at what's really going on, how can you appreciate what's around you? And you, like you said too, you have your action plan and your team in place for when these things go sour to keep you doing what you're doing in a really positive way. And I think it's very refreshing, number one, and I applaud you, brother. Like, thank you for sharing all that. And I think
Mhm.
that's another great message, is that in the fire service, man, you're not alone anymore. We're all hurting somehow. You just got to be vulnerable. And with that, I applaud you. And in the last little bit, what else do you want our listeners to really resonate and hear from your experience?
Top one, I keep telling my guys, I'm texting and calling, wear your stuff, wear your face piece, wear your gloves, wear everything. Guarantee you, if I wasn't wearing any of that stuff, it would be a whole different outcome. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
We talk about the fire academy, and we get kind of complacent. If it's a hot day, you put your hood down around your neck. If you're training, and you're wearing everything except for your hood over your head, that has to be a thing of the past, because like muscle memory, if you're used to keeping it off you, you're going to keep it off you when it matters. And luckily, I've always been in the mindset of, if I got it on me, I'm going to wear it properly, and everything worked the way it should have. Um, and Yeah, just wear your stuff. I can't emphasize that enough, including the face piece. That is one of the most expensive pieces of equipment that we have on the rig, but it's also your lungs.
Yeah.
I mean, those are your professional lungs that are going to be keeping you from breathing the stuff that's going to take you out. You can't get a lung transplant in time when you have seared lungs. There's no way. Like you're done. So wear your face piece. Um, and then probably another one is the mental health thing is real. If you need help, uh, helpers are okay to ask for help. You know, um, Everyone has a different threshold. Know what your threshold is, and there's someone or something that could be your therapy to making it the rest of your career. Whether it's like, if people are musicians that play music, like I like to go like green thumbing a lot, write, because I do journalism stuff. I'll write
Right.
and listen to jazz. I'll cook. So I have my outlets. Kids too, where they're not acting all crazy. Uh,
You got
you know,
girls too, which
yeah,
is right. You
yeah,
got 3 girls. So
yeah, three girls and little man. So but you have to find what works best for you. Everyone's different. So know your mental medication. What's going to happen when you need it. Um, but also, like we've always talked about with all these articles and stuff, uh, building construction, yes, but in particular, this is a type of building that historically has killed firefighters in the past. Cold storage facilities. Any of us that have been on long enough, they're old enough, know when we see the articles on Worcester, Massachusetts, 1999. That was a cold storage facility. It was multi-story. The documentary they did at that, going back, talking to the families of the boys that are now on the job, incredible. Just I watched that several times, and the last time I watched it was a few days ago. And just the beginning events of how they had light smoke showing from a big building, and kind of the attitude of like, hey, we're going to go in, we're going to check for people, we're going to find the fire, whatever, was the exact mindset and vision I had on this fire. Same type of smoke condition, no big deal. The major difference between mine and theirs was, unfortunately, they lost 6 brothers and left a lot of kids without a father.
Mm-hmm.
We got lucky and had a near miss times several members. So then doing other research, there's been a number of recorded cold storage fires that have resulted in injury and death of other firefighters. World's Fair, late 1890s in Chicago, close to you, Zan.
Yep.
13 guys were killed. We have in 84 Shreveport, hazmat turned into an explosion. One was killed, and another one was so horribly injured that he was medically retired. That same building from that same incident caught fire in 2019. So history repeated itself in the same exact building, and that was also a cold storage facility. Yep. So there's been a number of cold storage fires that I think have been, they've been broadcasted, but not focused on as far as being like a high target hazard of when they go up very quickly.
And they burn a lot.
They burn a lot. And at that point, it's not a firefight. It's more of a survival for the people that are inside near the building, and more of a containment piece. Because a firefight, you're not going to have any resources there quick enough to control something that's roaring that quickly.
Yeah.
With the materials involved. So
Madison, our biggest fire was a cold storage in 1993.
Yeah, that was the butter fire, right?
Butter fire, 13.5 million pounds of butter were burned in that. So I think you're right. And I think it goes back to, like, we need to learn from history, and study, and, continually train and identify these issues before they show up, and before we get another near miss, or we get one that's not a near miss. And, and I think too, that's a really big point. And so many lessons, brother. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And I want to say, I got a statement that kind of dawned on me, and I think hopefully it'll resonate with a lot of our listeners, is that, you emphasize PPE, and it's like, you got to put on your protection when you need it, but then you also have to take it off and allow yourself to mentally, right, like, be vulnerable and understand how that affects you. And, and that's what it's, the essence of getting better as a human, getting better as a father in this case, and even as a firefighter. And, it's the essence of what we are. And so thank you for sharing your story, brother. I appreciate it. And I look forward to many more conversations, and maybe a bro hug next time I see you, man. And I'm hoping that a lot of our listeners will take heed to the messages, and with that, man, thank you. Right. Like, I can't say anything more, man.
Well, thanks for providing a platform that is comfortable enough for people like myself to do that. And, it's important, we just got lucky, and the least I can do is pass on the words I've talked about: wearing your stuff, understanding history of unique buildings like cold storage facilities, but also, instead of going, I challenge people, and this is kind of like another one of those things where everyone's got those firehouses where it's either 2-man, or if it's a task force, it's 15 or 20 people, whatever. Don't go to your dorm at nighttime and get on the text chain and play Fortnite or whatever you're doing. Like, be in the rec room, be in the day room, and have fun with your crew. Play dish games. have good fun, tell those stories, tell those jokes, because I mean, I haven't enjoyed that more so, especially after the fire. I really have been more critical of myself, making sure I have those conversations in those
Yeah.
times, because you know when the bell hits, we know it's game on, and I trust every single one of those people that were there that night, and the ones that were not there that night. But you got to have that rapport. You got to have the firehouse communication on the fun stuff, but also the tactical stuff, and have conversations on everything that pertains to our job, because every conversation matters. Every person has a voice. Everyone has to be heard,
Yeah.
and you have to have a firehouse that embraces that communication, because you never know who you're going to learn something from. Could be the new guy, or it could be the guy leaving tomorrow. But um, just enjoy each other, take care of each other, and just yeah, this is a great job, but it's a better job when we are alive and we retire from this thing, walking out of here. When so many other people are not, uh, yeah, just count your blessings, and that any call could be your last, but do everything you can to prevent that.
Yeah. Be grateful, right? I think you
Yeah.
could see the gratitude in your eyes and telling your story. And I think you summarized what we're all about here at the Better Every Shift podcast. And it's about, being grateful for this wonderful job and really making sure that you have, um, just the right mindset. And if you don't,
Yeah.
lean on each other to get it. And,
Hmm.
and for our listeners, by the way, again, I've said thank you numerous times, and I truly appreciate you being here. And hopefully our listeners, if they have questions, they can email us at bettereveryshift@firerescue1.com. We'll try to leave links to pictures about the incident, along with some follow-up stuff, in the show notes. And I think the essence of it is, right, wear your PPE, know your crew, get to know your crew, be thankful for, um, you know, every moment that you can serve. And, and we said, wear that PPE, but also understand you need to take it off at certain times, because that's really what's going to help you learn something. It's going to help you do
Hmm.
something. And it's really going to help you then share what you did for us to make those and those around you better every shift. So thanks for
Hmm.
listening, everybody. Thanks for sharing your story. Appreciate you, brother.
Likewise, big Sam. I appreciate you, bud.